Hello, and welcome to PeppTalks with Jeanne. I'm your host, Jeanne Pepper. I started doing PeppTalks as a way to inspire you to do intentional acts of kindness and to further the goals of #BlazeItForward. Over the past 6 years, PeppTalks evolved. I now use it for interviewing people actively making a difference in this world through their volunteerism, community service, or careers. My guests are all here because they have dedicated their lives to making this world a better place. Join us as we delve into the hopes, dreams, and aspirations of these truly inspiring and hardworking people. On today's episode, we have Lisa Fuerst, my friend. She is a philanthropist, she is a business owner, and she runs a nursing school with her husband. And she has quite a story that is going to be a lot of fun for us to not only learn about your history, but also the takeaway from it, which is huge. So it's such a treat to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you. I love being here. This is great.
It is great.
Excited to be here.
I like having people here that inspire other people to be their best person. And I find Lisa to be a very inspiring person. Why do I find you inspiring, Lisa? Tell us about where you came from and where you're going.
Well, I have an interesting story in how I ended up where I am today. I grew up in a household where my mom was a housekeeper. My father was a blue-collar worker, and grew up with learning from my parents. I learned a great work ethic. But with that, at our dinner table, when a lot of kids were talking about education and going to school and continuing their education out of high school, we really talked about work and what were you going to do after that. In my situation, my parents got divorced. My father had a dependency on other things and really created a lot of issues in my household. So at a very young age, my parents were divorcing. And so at a young age of 17, I had to figure out what I was going to do with my life. And continuing my education wasn't really part of that. So from working at a gas station and having a couple of jobs, I found a little school in Pomona, California, and I went to that school and I enrolled into a medical receptionist, medical billing program, and was on campus on my way for a 9-month course to become a professional. And in my mind, wow, I was in a school in a uniform, really taking care of myself. And it was challenging because when my parents divorced, my mom, who was cleaning houses, took my sister, my older sister, and my brother, and lived in a house of a woman that she assisted in house cleaning with. And then I went to move in with my grandmother, who lived in San Bernardino. So San Bernardino to Pomona was quite a drive. So many times I found myself sleeping in my car or staying the night at people's homes, and just not really a drifter. I don't really want to look at it like that, but I had some challenges. And so through those 9 months of going to school, I think it really made me strong. I think that was the best way to look at it. Then I graduated from Northwest College and got my first job, and I was on my way.
And that's Northwest College of Nursing? Or?
It's Northwest College. So believe it or not, it's the very school that my husband and I now own. So when I was going to that school, I knew Mrs. Fuerst, Marcia Fuerst. She's the founder of the college. So she would come into campus, and it was always Mrs. Fuerst is coming. Mrs. Fuerst is coming. So you had to be in the right proper uniform. I remember I had a little sweater that was not the right color, and I would have to take it off because I couldn't afford, another sweater the right color, and you would get in trouble. You had to be in the right uniform. She was very, very, very strict about that. But she had one day her son and a bunch of his friends came on campus, and my girlfriend and I were sitting at the table in the student union, and this young kid comes in and opening the vending machines, taking out some candy for his friends. And my girlfriend and I were like, wow, can we just have a Snickers bar? Can we just take one of those? Because we didn't have, 50 cents between each other. So it's a little bit interesting that, a year after I graduated from that school, I met Mitchell in a nightclub at the Red Onion in Orange, and here he is, the son of Marcia, and it's just incredible. And so meeting her was really, I think, a very big turning point in my life, because I just looked up to her because I went to her school as a young girl, and I think that school really saved me. Here you are. I didn't really have a clear path. I knew that I had to go to school. I knew I needed to work, and I needed the skills. And so that was where I ended up, and it saved my life. I think I really believe it did, because it gave me the right path. So I met her, and she was completely welcoming to me. I mean, she just welcomed me, and I was in a family again. So it was incredible.
Wow, that is a really interesting story. Now, I have come to believe that these coincidences are kind of messages.
Yeah.
They kind of, they're I don't know, signposts. They're the checkpoints that you're where you're supposed to be.
I agree. And I think that's true too with things that can happen in your life that are bad. Because of my exposure to my father and kind of his side of the family, I was exposed to drugs. And how many times somebody told me, hey, you want a little hit off this crack pipe? Or hey, you want to, I just did a shot of heroin. Do you want some? And those pivotal moments in my life that I remember so clearly and vividly, that I took the different route. I said no, but I could have easily said, sure, why not? Let me try it.
Yeah, but you went with your gut feeling.
I went with my gut, and I always had, I don't know how, but I just feel like I shared earlier, I always felt like I had a little guardian angel on my side. And
did you feel like you were switched at birth?
I don't know.
Like, did you ever feel like, I don't belong in this family? They don't have the same values that I have. I want to go to college. I want to be like the people I see on television that have these professional jobs and that don't have to clean houses or, wash cars for a living or whatever it may be. That's, this blue collar work that you're talking about.
I wish I could tell you yes, but I didn't.
Okay.
Because that is really that's how I grew up.
You didn't question it.
I didn't question it, but for me, when I would go, like, with my mother, we would help at the bar mitzvahs or bar mitzvahs, because a lot of the families she worked for were physicians and they were Jewish. And I do remember looking at those families and those different events and just loving that whole family sort of gatherings. And I don't know, I just felt very connected. At a very young age, I felt connected. Yeah. So, that's something that always stayed with me.
It was almost like you had a feeling that maybe you belonged. Like this was going to be part of your future. Like
possibly.
You would bring it back. You would make sure that you had the opportunity to participate in something like this as an adult.
I think for me, it wasn't really that thought out, because I kind of was put my head down and work. The thing for me was I always took advantage of the opportunities that I was given. So I worked in a doctor's office, and then, a position would open up that maybe was more of management, and I always had physicians that I worked for that always wanted to lift me and grow from within, right, from the offices that I worked in. And so I always, I never had a vision of what I want. Like, I want to achieve this or get that, or I just knew that I wanted just a better life for myself, because I was independent and nobody ever really gave me anything, or I just worked for it. And I think that later in life, I wanted simple things. Like I wanted a car with an air conditioner, a car with a heater, or windshield wipers that worked. So for me, those were little goals that I had, So it wasn't really a factor of like, wow, I want to be a surgeon, or I didn't really think like that.
If someone had given you a lot of money when you were young, would that have made you happy? It sounds like you were happy in your own way, even when you had so little. How do you feel about money now, coming from nothing and having so much now?
Well, it's really interesting because to answer your first question, if somebody would have given me a lot of money, I don't know. I don't think that would have made me happy. Looking back, I think I was, I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. I had a hard life, but I made the best of it. And I think that that's very important to do. I could have really, woe is me and made excuses and not worked and maybe took the easy way out and dealt drugs like my dad did and made easy money like that. I certainly had the opportunities to do that. So I don't think giving me a lot of money at that time would have, I'm happy that didn't happen. I'm happy I didn't win the lottery at that time because those skills and that life that I went through really helps me today because we're more successful. I'm able to really do the things that I feel was my destiny to do, which is help other people.
I just love that. And I've noticed this also, like with successful people, happy people, they generally, when they look back at the things in life that were challenging, they see the glass as half full. They don't look at it as, woe is me, I had such a terrible childhood. But they look at it as I had the opportunity to learn from a very difficult childhood, and it gave me the skills that I needed to be successful today. And I wouldn't trade that life for anything. And I believe that you'll hear these stories more often than not with people that do make it. And I think that the people that do make it in this world, that do come from these challenges, they're so much more appreciative of the things that they have when they finally get them.
I believe you're exactly right because because of the things that I experienced as a young girl, later in life, I decided to, talk to somebody about it. And it was really interesting to me that how I felt when people felt sorry for me or felt I was a victim, or these are real trigger words for me. And it's really interesting. I don't like them. So I never felt like, oh, woe is me. I was a victim and what happened to me or the challenges that I had. And I always felt like, wow, I'm a winner. Like I really, I turned my life around and really by myself with mentors in my life, not stealing or cheating from anybody. And again, going back to taking advantage of the people in my life and the mentors that I had, and that gave me the opportunities, and I took them.
Yes, and you used them to your advantage. You really did. But you also had a terrific work ethic.
Uh-huh.
You're a very hard worker. You never were a slouch. You never felt entitled to anything. You worked hard your whole life. You still continue to.
I do.
Yes.
I do. And I think that is the biggest gift that my parents gave me. They both were very hard workers. And then unfortunately, my dad, he took a little bit of a turn in life, but I never saw my parents sleeping in. We were never on any kind of, assistance from the government or, begging for food or none of that. We always had a very clean house. My mom was an amazing, cook. We, sometimes we lived on bologna tacos or whatever it was, but we always had food on our table and a clean house.
And I'm assuming that your parents were both born American citizens?
Well, my mom was born in Mexico City.
Okay.
And my father was born here. Yes.
Okay. And did your mother come to the United States legally?
She came at 18 years old, and and she came with an aunt and uncle. Mm-hmm. So she came to work during the summer.
Yeah.
And while she was working, she met her husband. So she ended up getting married.
And so that solved the problem.
And then she got pregnant, and she was 8 months pregnant when her husband died in a car accident.
Oh.
Yeah, so she was pregnant. She was married, so she was already, she was here legally and
so that
became an American citizen.
That's a half brother or sister that you have?
That's my older sister. Mm-hmm.
And you were raised with her?
Mm-hmm.
How far apart in age are you?
2 years.
Oh, so very quickly after that, she met your dad.
Well, they were all best friends.
Oh, well, this is quite a story.
So my mom and my dad and her late husband were all best friends.
Wow.
And my dad was like the fast friend that had a lot of girlfriends, living the life. And then when he passed away, he said, I loved him and I want to take care of his child. They married out of an opportunity for two people, very sad. And I think that was probably a big issue in their marriage. When you're not marrying, you find that person and you meet them and you fall in love and you marry. I think this was more of a situation where they needed each other through a very, very sad time.
Yeah. But you were the beneficiary of that. So.
Yeah. I was.
So we're happy it happened.
I know.
Yes. And now you've got a very full life. What makes it full for you? Like, what are the ingredients that make this life good now for you?
Well, I think that our family.
The family
makes
is
it
important.
full for me. Yeah, my family is very, very important to me. I think that's the number one thing for me. I think I think working for me is really important. I really do enjoy it, but I'm in a time in my life now where I'm able to, instead of, a lot of my girlfriends will lunch or they go out or things like that. They're in that time in their lives. And for me, I took that time and I'm really, I volunteer with Emanate Health Foundation. As I shared earlier,
Yeah.
I've been chair of the Board of Trustees for 5 years. And so my purpose in life right now is really giving back. But it's always something that I enjoyed doing. But now I can really do it, not only with money, but it's with time. And as a volunteer, sometimes your time and it's more valuable at times. So working with the foundation has brought me a lot of joy. Even through our foundation, finding nonprofits that I would like to contribute to, finding different groups that we give scholarships to our nursing schools, and finding the right individual. There's a nonprofit that I'm involved in, Giving Children Hope, where these are mothers with children that they provide all the groceries, food. They go through in their car, they load up with groceries. But we decided to provide a scholarship to one of those moms. And in May, one of the first scholarships, she's graduating from our VN class. So now we're turning people, tax users into taxpayers in that way. And it's dignity, right? Because now they're going to be working in the field. And these are things that make me happy and bring me joy.
That is beautiful. So
Yes.
instead of giving people fish, you give them a fishing pole.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly right.
I think that's the answer.
You're right.
It really is.
And I love it. I like to do more, but I think when I tell people, if you know anyone or you have somebody that you've heard that they need an opportunity, because I was that student. I didn't have money to go to school. And if somebody would have said to me, do you want to be an attorney and you have a scholarship to do that? I would have maybe thought, wow, that's amazing. So I'm just constantly giving the message out that we're willing to do this, and
yeah,
it's wonderful.
What do you think about vocational schooling in high schools? Like, do you think that, I know we've eliminated a lot of these opportunities for people that are not college bound. It seems almost counterintuitive.
Well, I loved ROP. ROP was one of those programs. So I believe in it. And, I do believe that, there are students, and again, I'm talking about my personal experience. So not something that, I was that student. So I know exactly, there could be somebody on campus that was me. There's someone sitting next to you taking the SATs. I didn't even know what that was. I didn't even know what was that. So there could be that student that maybe needs to go out and work and maybe help their family. This is a quick program, 9 months. You could be a dental assistant. You could be a medical assistant. There are longer programs, obviously, but I think they're valuable to somebody. But I think it's great and I think they do continue to have like job fairs or educational fairs in high schools, but I do think it's important to have the option.
Yeah.
Everybody needs an option.
Yeah, I think so too. I know that there was a lot of talk that the vocational schools, like in the inner cities, that we needed to get rid of them because the people in places like where we live, they don't offer vocational schooling. So like, are we pushing some people to become blue collar workers and some people are pushing to be? I mean, what's the solution to that? Do we still offer it?
Well, let me share a little fact with you, is that the people that are, HVAC, air conditioning, welders, these are careers that they need to be trained to do it. It is a skill, and they need to be trained. So if you do away with vocational schools that do these trades, okay, mechanics, they need to be there. Those programs need to be offered. Now, of course, there's other programs that are nursing and even aviation. There are private schools in aviation as well for pilots. That's going to be a shortage. But I feel very strongly that they should exist. These trades are going to exist. There's not going to be robots coming out and fixing our air conditioning, and they need to.
We might.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe
You're right.
someday.
There could be a lot of AI going on, but I think that it's important.
Yeah,
the trades are important.
I think so too. And I don't think college is for everybody. Although I'm glad that so many people do go to college because we can have nurses.
Let me tell you, when my children, it's something that I really, it wasn't a choice. It was a fact.
Right.
You're going to college.
Yeah. And I was raised that way too. I think that it's a Jewish value, I think, to have higher education if you can do it. But there are Jewish people that don't go to college because it's not their thing.
Sure.
And I don't have a problem with that, but it's the opportunities. I think that we have to give people opportunity. Everybody should have an opportunity to be educated.
Exactly. Everybody.
And it's not for everybody, but if you want it, you should have the opportunity.
100%.
To improve yourself. I think that's a very important thing.
I agree.
So tell me, how did your religious background or your spirituality, how has that affected your life?
Well, it's kind of, okay, so Hispanic family, Catholic, that's kind of like how my family was. Not super religious, believe in God. Absolutely. My dad would kind of come in and out, he'd get his paycheck and then we wouldn't see him for about, 5 days. Then he'd come back home and my mom would want to, he was going to change, was, that kind of situation. So, for example, the last religion that I was actually baptized in, believe it or not, was Mormon.
Wow.
So the elders came and knocked on the door one day. My mom thought, well, maybe this would be a great change that would change my dad, right? So the elders came in and they educated us. And then we put on once you went through the whole program and put on the white jumpsuit and got dunked in the water in the temple. And so at 13 years old, that was the religion that I was baptized in.
You're LDS.
Believe it or not, I'm LDS. So, and I have respect for all religions, and I thought that religion was fantastic. We went to Church of Latter-day Saints. They were kind, they were nice. It's not something that I believed that I would do, growing up or raise my children or get married in the
so?
No. As a child, I was really, I wasn't rebellious. I kind of went with the flow and I didn't go against the grain at all. I was always just kind of like, this is what we're doing. Didn't question it a lot, But of course, as you get older, you have your own choices and your own decisions. And I didn't carry that on as an adult. I didn't do that. So now moving forward, I meet my husband who's Jewish, 100% Ashkenazi Jew. Both his parents are Jewish. And I go into their household, which was another interesting thing because they weren't very, they had some traditions, but we had Christmas. She had, 8 trees in her house and That was very interesting. And then when I went on my honeymoon, I went to Israel with my in-laws, and that was the turning point for me with Judaism. I felt a connection when I went to Israel, and that's when I knew in the back of my mind, this is what I believe in.
Oh, that's
And
so
I
fascinating.
felt such a connection, and that was my journey.
Oh, that's really interesting. I actually had a similar experience. As I grew up kind of in a secular Jewish home. They're not Mormon, not Catholic, but Jews that kind of do what I say, not what I do. That's who raised me. So
Wow.
they weren't practicing, but they forced me to go to religious school. And I never really had an affinity for it because I felt like it was forced on me. And I was the only one who had to be Jewish in the family, apparently, because my parents weren't doing anything except driving me to religious
And
school.
Shabbat, you didn't?
We did not celebrate Shabbat. I didn't even know what it was. I did not know what Shabbat was. I really didn't understand what it was.
Passover, all the high.
Passover, my other relatives would do it. And if it was convenient, my parents would attend with us. And it wasn't even made a priority. There were some years we just didn't attend because my dad or my parents decided we were going on a vacation that weekend, and so we wouldn't be able to attend. And I know,
Wow.
so I knew that there was a whole world out there that was for me if I could get in, if I could get exposed to it, if I could learn more about it and be around people that were Jewish. And we never even lived in a place where there were Jewish people. So I had no context for what it was like to be around other Jewish people. But I met my husband when I was very young. I was in high school, and he was that person that was going to teach me. And we went to Israel on our honeymoon. And I really connected at summer camps and going to Israel and marrying into a traditional Jewish family. It really gave me the education, like the real education and what it meant to live in a Jewish family that was practicing the religion. And I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed raising my kids traditionally. We got a lot out of it. There is a lot that you can get out of at least our religion.
Yeah.
I don't know about others, and I'm sure that there are traditions that like Christmas is something that people love. It's their holiday, their childhood memories, some of their fondest memories. So
Yes.
I think for Jewish people, those memories can be some of their fondest memories also, if they
Yeah.
have a family that practices and makes it joyful.
Yeah, I agree.
So
That's great. And now here you are. You're in the middle of the biggest Jewish community here. You're all your circle of friends who I have had the pleasure of getting to know and being involved in. And I think we have a very, very I think there's a beautiful Jewish community here. I'm just so happy to be part of it. You know, Mitchell and I were new into the community because our son Matthew attended Tarbut.
yes.
So if you know, we were exposed to the families through Tarbut.
So this is a Jewish private school that Lisa's talking
Yes,
about.
and this is an amazing school that was great for my son, and it also exposed us to these families that we are now, very good friends with, and it just puts a smile on my face. There's nothing better than really loving the part of community that you're involved in and wanting, and this is again going back to philanthropy. If you look at the community, everybody is in some way or another. And again, philanthropy to me, it could be your time, it could be your money, any
Yes.
networking people together.
That's
and
right.
so you just see this community that does that, just without really wanting anything in return. It's just really this wonderful. It's just been a wonderful experience for me, and I'm learning from it.
Yes, and I
Your
learned-
husband, I mean,
yeah.
I bought 12 of his books for our board of trustees because we're fundraising for the hospital.
Yeah.
Where I was talking about that. And he was so gracious in signing a copy for every single one of them. And they always bring it up, they bring up this in the book or that. So it was really, really good, so it's all around us. And I love being part of it.
Why
Yeah.
why be a helper?
Why be a helper?
Yeah.
Well, for me, that's a really good question. And I think a lot of times people feel you're helping, but selfishly it helps you as well. And so my love language is giving, right? Kind. I've just, I've always had a bleeding heart, which, as I shared, could be a blessing and a curse, right? Because I ache for, I don't like people to suffer. I'm a doer. I want to help. I'm just, that is the way that I'm wired.
And thank goodness you're an overachiever at everything you do.
And if you give me, I just really hate the word no, or you can't. I really don't. I really do. So I feel, if someone's in a situation, I want to help them. And so it really brings me joy. But I feel there's a couple different, for example, my husband and myself, it brings him joy to see me happy doing what I'm doing. But we're different in that way. He's not probably like, he could walk by someone that, we'll walk by somebody that's needing, money, but we know what they're needing the money for. He'll say, buy food. And it's just hard for me. I want to give them $20, or I want it. I ache. And it's okay for him. He takes things they're there because they choose to be there, or if they wanted food, we can provide food. And it's hard for me because I'll think about it all day long.
Yeah.
And it's one story. I was driving on 17th Street and there was a lady dragging a very, very old suitcase. I mean, it was like on one wheel. She was elderly. And this really bothered me to see her dragging this suitcase. So I turned around and I went to like TJ Maxx and I bought a suitcase and I kept it in my car. And I said, if I see her again, I'm going to give it to her. And I did.
Oh, wow.
And I saw her again and I gave her the suitcase. But I can't tell you how much, I felt so good doing that.
That is really interesting.
I felt really good. And it's just, it's just something that I'm enjoying doing in this part of my life. And I can. So that's what I love doing.
I love that. And it's so interesting too, because like what you did, just recognizing that there was this moment that you envisioned it, that you're going to give this woman something that was going to make her life better.
Yeah.
You're going to alleviate the suffering. And it was worth it to you to carry around the suitcase just for the opportunity to help this woman. It meant something to you.
That's right. The act of kindness, right?
Yeah. That's
just so easy to say, but it means a lot. You're blaze it for, I mean, this was our first time Mitchell and I went with a group of people to a restaurant, which, everybody pulls together tips and gives it to the server.
Yes.
And it was amazing.
It's a nice feeling.
It is a nice feeling.
To say thank you to people that work hard and that are often not really appreciated very much in our society.
And not to mention, Jeannie, the fact that, to know that there are still people out there, kind people, because we live in a world where it's just crazy. You can't give somebody a bad look when you're driving or, you're worried, so it's nice to know that there's still people out there that enjoy doing those acts of kindness.
Do you think that people that have more than enough have an obligation to help others?
I don't feel that there is an obligation. It's like kind of how I feel I don't like telling people what to do with their money. Mm-hmm. I think it's such a personal thing. I've seen people on both sides that don't like to give. They're just not interested. And those that do. And I don't feel that people have an obligation. I personally don't. I feel that you need to do whatever you decide to do with your wealth management, what I mean, you don't even have to have a lot of money, because people that don't have a lot give as
true.
well.
That's
so it's
true.
not really about the money. I think that I don't feel personally that people have an obligation. Maybe I don't understand it, but I don't feel it's their obligation.
Yeah. And it's also interesting too, because sometimes people that have very little are the ones that really get in and help in schools and help.
Yeah, with their time.
Yeah, they
and
donate
their volunteer.
time.
Yeah,
and there are a lot of opportunities here.
A lot
too.
of opportunities.
Yeah. Why did you get involved with Emanate Health?
Well, Emanate Health Foundation is in the community where Mitchell and I grew up in West Covina. Mm-hmm. So there's a system. It's 3 largest hospitals in the San Gabriel Valley: Queen of the Valley Hospital, Intercommunity Hospital, and Foothill Presbyterian Hospital. Now, our school, our main campus, is in West Covina. And we've been there for 56 years, and the hospital's been there for, with the same amount of time. In that community, it is 55% Hispanic. So we had a big campaign for Queen of the Valley Hospital in West Covina to create a new emergency room. And what does that mean? When you walk into an emergency room and children and people are sitting on, Home Depot chairs because there's not enough seats in the ER, because it's not big enough to serve the community. And I personally feel, because of my access to healthcare or dental when I was young, I didn't get to go. I didn't go to the dentist. Only, I didn't have braces. I didn't have all those things that most children have, because that was an expense, and it was something we couldn't afford. And so I didn't have a general practitioner, or these days a concierge doctor. Mm-hmm. And so what I want to provide is to have that community, to have access to healthcare, to be educated. We just built a cancer center, a diabetes center. So all of these things, they deserve it. And so that's why I'm passionate about what I do with Emanate Health Foundation, because they're doing it in those communities, and I want to be part of it.
And you see the actual...
Oh, 100%. In 5 years, I've seen it, and so the emergency room is under development now. And so as the foundation, we are fundraising. We are, getting out there in the communities and talking about what's happening. And many times, a lot of business owners in the communities, they employ people that use the very hospitals that we are fundraising for. So it all kind of ties together. And of all the things that I'm doing, including with our own foundation, I feel right now it's the biggest passion in my life right now, because I have been able to see what we're doing and how it's changing, and seeing people going to the cancer center, getting educated, feeling comfortable. A lot of Hispanic communities, they're afraid. They're not comfortable in going. They have Medi-Cal. Well, the hospital has an IPA that pays the physicians to see Medi-Cal patients. These are all things that are happening in communities that are not like Orange County.
This is kind of a bubble.
It is a bubble. And that's why that's my focus. And that has been a big challenge for me, because I've never been chair of any type of, board of directors or board of trustees, or being involved talking to CEOs in the hospitals and pounding the pavement. I've never done that. There's not a book, to learn that. And, as I shared with you, I'm not really somebody that particularly feels comfortable talking in front of people a lot, or even sharing my stories at times. And I've learned in talking to community leaders, sharing my story is really important, because I'm telling them from my own experience. It's not someone that's coming in, with, I'm just bored and I need something to do. It's really because I believe in it.
Yeah, you're an unusual case, though, don't you think? I mean, there aren't very many people that come from working class families that are able to create opportunity for themselves. It's unusual. You're a very smart person, so you probably always would have been able to get a scholarship to do some of these things, I'm guessing. And is that why you want to create scholarships now? Because you know that the value.
I do. And I do feel, that's why I always tell you, I'm always like impressed. You're an attorney. I mean, this is just so impressive to me whenever I meet women, especially, because I think like, if I had a scholarship, I think I would have been a kick-ass attorney.
Oh, you would have been great.
Or maybe a good doctor. I don't know. I mean, of course, I think because I think it goes back to having a good work ethic. I think I would have put everything into it. I wouldn't have taken advantage of the situation that I was given, and I would have put all of it in. So yes, the answer to your question is yes, because there are people out there that need an opportunity.
Yeah.
And if we can help, glad to do it.
So you're good at a lot of things. You're good at growing up businesses too. You started your own business, your own medical billing practice.
I did.
It was very successful. And you also helped your husband and his family grow their universities, their nursing schools. Tell us, how did that happen? How many did it start with? How many do they have now?
Well, I wish I could take a lot of the Mitchell joined his mother in the schools when there were 4 schools, 65 employees. And he had been working alongside her. He was always her successor. And Mitchell's just dynamic with, he's just always been, had that entrepreneurial spirit as a young kid. And so when he joined her, it was a little bit of a little bit of country, a little bit of rock and roll, because, you know, he came from coming out of university and she was not college educated. So she did everything from her gut, and she did everything hands on.
Wait, she wasn't college
She
educated. She
wasn't.
ran a
She
university.
wasn't. It was a very unique story.
That
Yeah,
is
she was a
now
pioneer.
that's quite a story
exactly,
right
in
there.
the 50s, starting a school with men, and she was, you know,
And she wasn't a nurse.
and she wasn't a nurse.
That's
and
fascinating.
men heckled her, and so she was. It was really, I think, brave.
Very
of her.
brave.
So Mitch came to join her, and they were very, very close. And she always said, you will inherit the schools, right? And then, unfortunately, she got Alzheimer's. And it really, really was a rapid illness. I mean,
How old was she?
she was in her late 60s.
Oh, so young.
I know.
Really
I
taken
know.
so soon.
And during that time, it was a very, very difficult time for all of us. It was a very difficult time. But Mitchell has now grown the schools. We have 14 campuses, 800 employees.
14.
And we continue to grow. And so we're looking in other areas. So it is amazing. And I wish I could take credit for helping the growth, but I will take credit for being a great partner to Mitchell. And I am involved in the schools. I've been involved in the schools for the past 12 years now. And how does that help? I'm going to tell you, it's really, really important, because I am very relatable to students. And I created this Closet for Success on each of our campuses. And what does that mean? When I was a young girl and I was at Northwest College and I had an opportunity to go for an interview, I didn't have an outfit and I didn't have the money to buy it. So what did I do? I borrowed it. I borrowed an outfit. I went to my interview and I got the job. Wow. So that has always stayed with me. And I developed a Closet for Success. You have a little skin in the game. You have to write me a little essay on what does it mean to you, the Closet for Success, this opportunity. And I provide them a full outfit from head to toe with shoes, even some accessories for men and women. And this way they have that, and they can feel good about them and their self-esteem, and they have, you know, a nice outfit to go in for the interview and get that job for success. And so that's been something that that has been really important to me in the school. And also the fact that I have many students that are relatable to me. And if they have challenges, and like I shared with you, you know, some of them don't have places to stay, and they've come to me and they've talked to me, and it's nice to have somebody that you can relate to and can tell you, I promise you it's going to get better.
Yeah, that must be.
As long as you put the work in.
Yeah, you're inspiring to your students.
It will get better. Nothing is done for you or easy. It's never easy.
Yeah. But how are your kids? Do you feel like you've been able to pass on this work ethic to them? And how do you prevent children that grow up in an environment like this, that have access to so much? How do you prevent them from becoming entitled?
Well, you know, I think with my children, it's parenting styles. I have Mitchell grew up with a family that were very communication, talking, all of that. I grew up in a family where it was a little bit more, I mean, you know, you got in trouble, and there was probably a little more physical abuse. And so when I came into the family situation, I was very much like I'm definitely the disciplinarian, but I had to kind of break that cycle, right? And to talk to them and communicate with them. And with my children, they were never my friends. We're always the parent. That was really important to me. And I think the best thing I can tell you is you live by example. My kids have always seen us work. They've seen us work. They see what I do in the community. I've always been, even though I worked, we always came home and I had food on the table. We ate together 4 nights a week. I came home and I made dinner. We talked. Mitchell and I took the kids to school every single day. We took them to school. I had somebody help me pick them up and to bring them home, or if they had an activity, but we took them to school together. We had dinner together. We traveled together. And so I think that this is all very important because, they model behavior. They saw us and what we were doing. And as Farrah, as a little girl, I always had a nursery in my office. So Farrah grew up around business. Matthew grew up around it.
That's really interesting.
And for our family, that's what helped. It's never perfect. You have those, we all experience with our kids, the teenage years. Oh my gosh, I thought that would never go away. But I think that I'm proud of how they are today. And I think that they're happy. I think we never put a lot of pressure on them academically. And I think that was really important too in high school, because they needed to enjoy and have fun. And they're kids, they're young adults. They're going to fall down. We're there to pick them up. But that's it. That's what I would say.
You and Mitch come from very different backgrounds.
Very different.
Do your children identify more with your family, his family, both families? How did the two families interact with each other?
100% his family. 100%. They think this is what they say to me. They're like, Mom, you're just like such a badass. I mean, I've been put in really, really very dangerous situations growing up. I mean, when you heard in my, from someone, getting shot in my house from,
that happened?
My father, it was the son of a pretty well-known drug dealer. And there was a lot of problems about how he was killed. And I went to the funeral, and my dad handed me, a gun to put in my purse. And in case people start shooting, take it out. I mean, could you imagine? I mean, that I would have done it, by the way. I would have done it. I would have taken it out and try to protect my father. Or, just the drug scene and what I was exposed to. And I don't know. They don't relate to my dad's side of the family. My mom, civilized people, but my children we were much closer to my husband's family.
Yeah. Do your children consider themselves Mexican, Jewish?
100% they're Mexican and Jewish.
And
I'm very proud of it.
Oh, that's good to hear. Have they ever been discriminated against for being either of those things?
I don't think so. Not. I think nothing that I could tell you. This incident happened.
Yeah.
Okay, but I will tell you, after October 7th, they did take off their Stars of David. Matthew took it off. Farrah took it off because they felt unsafe. They felt a little unsafe, and there was a lot of talk about it, right? And not because they were shameful but sometimes you have to make a decision on, are you going to invite, something, or you're just going to.
Yeah.
And so that was a little bit scary time for them. And I think it was the first time that they identified with that situation in their life. But not anything in particular outside of that.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah. They're so cute. They're just like super proud of and I'm fully bilingual. I identify as a Latina 100%.
Yeah. Do your children speak Spanish?
They don't, and they're very upset about it. But I tell them to go get Rosetta Stone. I learned it because I used to go to Mexico every summer, and I would spend my summers there. So I learned Spanish as a young girl, and once you pick it up, it doesn't go away. So,
yeah.
But I love I was just in Miami. I needed it. So I spoke Spanish probably the whole time there because everybody speaks Spanish there.
Yeah. What do you see for yourself in the future with your volunteer work? Will you continue to do work with these hospitals? What do you see yourself maybe branching out and doing other things? Like, what are your passions?
I will always be in healthcare as a volunteer in some way. But one thing that I am going to focus on is the seniors.
Yeah, so important.
And so it's really something that I've been thinking a lot about. Whether it be with animals, going into nursing homes, or music, or even a touch, a hand massage, or talking, sitting and talking, storytelling. They love, they need someone to talk to, or, so I think that is something that I will focus on.
Yeah. So tell me, do you believe that there's an afterlife?
I kind of do.
What does it look like to you?
I really actually kind of do, because I feel like, weirdly enough, I feel like there was even before me. Like, I think I was like involved in Judaism some way, and then if you're referring afterlife, reincarnation kind of thing, yeah, I kind of do believe that. Because why? Because I feel like sometimes I feel like something's happened before, like a deja vu.
Yeah.
Like I've been like this has been
Yeah.
yeah
I'm not
something.
surprised that you do, because I see you as like not a clairvoyant, but a clairsentient. You are aware of things other people aren't aware of, like the energy in a room. Yeah, I think that you're very hyper aware of those things.
Yes, I do have a lot of energy, and I feel people's energy. I definitely do.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, in business, that's helped, because Mitchell will always bring me along and go, I need you to vibe this person. I need you to get the energy going on this person. And I feel I can vibe it. Mm-hmm. As a young girl, I've just always been able to do that.
Okay, so I would like you and anybody else out there that's listening to take the 16personalities.com test. Yes, it is not proven to be an accurate 100% in explaining personality, but it does give us a lot of information that's useful. And I think that Lisa and I are a very similar personality type. I wouldn't be surprised, and it's not a very typical one for women to have. So I'm dying to know what it is, and by the time this airs, you're going to know what your personality type is, and we're going to...
Oh, I'm gonna do it.
You're going to do it, and we're going to put it on. But my personality type is ENTP, which is an extroverted, intuitive, thinking, perceptive person.
Wow.
So I think you are very similar, if not the same, and we're going to find out.
Fabulous.
Yes. Well, that's been another episode of Pep Talks with Jeannie. I'm going to get myself comfortable here. And once again, I would like to thank Lisa Fuerst for joining us today. You have a very inspiring story that we can all learn from. And I am so proud of the things that you do, and that I know you, and that I got to know you. You are doing great things. And I love seeing people that take their challenges and make them their strengths. And you have done that superbly.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
on that.
I encourage people to do a podcast, especially it gets you out of your comfort zone.
It's
if you're
great,
nervous like
isn't
me,
it?
but it's really good. It's good to talk about things. Yes.
I think it's good. Also, it's really good for people that do these amazing things like you do to tell their stories, because yes, we know that people do these things, but we don't always know how they got to that place. And when average people like me hear about the way that you got there, it inspires us to do more. And I hope that
Thank you.
I know that you will inspire many people, and maybe Latinas, to do more and to take advantage of educational opportunities.
Absolutely.
Because you are a terrific success story and role model for all of your communities, your Jewish community, your Catholic community, your Mormon community.
All of them. Exactly.
And
Thank you.
Lovely. Hashtag Blaze It Forward is a campaign that my family started to repair the world with kindness in honor of our son Blaze, who was murdered in 2018. You can learn more about Blaze and his legacy and how you can make a difference on our website, www.blazebernstein.org, or on my new website, PeppTalksWithJeannie.com. That's www.PeppTalksWithJeannie.com.
Jeannie, thank you for having me on your podcast today. It was amazing. I challenged myself, and I admire you, and I just so grateful that you asked me to join you today, and I had a really good time.
Thank you.
If you want to learn more about Emanate Health Foundation, please visit them, emanatehealth.org, or you can email me directly, lisa@fuerstasset.com. These are a system of 3 hospitals doing wonderful things in the San Gabriel Valley. Please check them out.
Special thank yous to all the volunteers who have helped me with my philanthropic endeavors. And today, that is my producer, Eli Moskowitz. Thank you so much for all that you do to make sure that this podcast is exceptional every time and every 2 weeks. And also a shout out to my son Jay Bernstein for the incredible music that you hear at the beginning and at the end of every podcast. Thank you. This has been another episode of Pep Talks with Jeannie, and we'll see you again next time.